Hello, welcome to IELTS Resource Center podcast, where we dive deep into the world of IELTS preparation. I am Mr. George, your host, and I'm thrilled to bring your essential tips, strategies, and expert advice to help you reach your desired IELTS score. Today, I will be bringing to you an interactive learning experience from IELTS Resource Center online coaching session. Stay tuned.
Welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be talking about reading, and I think a lot of people out there can relate to that, feeling overwhelmed by really dense reading material.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about some strategies to help everybody out there conquer that dense reading material, especially we're going to be looking at material from the IELTS exam.
That's right.
But we're not just going to focus on the IELTS exam.
No.
Because these skills are transferable to any kind of reading situation that you might encounter.
Yeah.
So what is it about the reading section of the IELTS exam that makes it so unique and so challenging?
Well, I think the thing that makes the IELTS reading section so fascinating and so challenging at the same time is that it kind of throws everything at you at once. So you've got 3 long, complex passages that you have to get through, and they get progressively harder as you go through the exam. You have 40 questions that you have to answer, and you've only got 60 minutes to do it all.
Okay, so I'm already feeling the pressure just hearing you describe that.
Yeah.
So let's break it down a little bit. What kinds of questions are we talking about?
Yeah, so you'll encounter quite a variety of different question types on the IELTS reading section. 1 minute you might be matching headings to paragraphs, and the next you're trying to decipher whether a statement is true, false, or not given.
Those not given questions, those can be tricky even for somebody who reads a lot.
Yeah, they can be.
Yeah.
A real head scratcher for sure.
What is it about those not given questions that makes them so tricky? And what are some tips to avoid falling into those traps?
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes the not given options so tricky is that people often forget what not given actually means. So essentially, if an answer is not given, it means that the information to confirm or deny the statement is simply missing from the passage. It's not about what could be true based on our own knowledge, but it's solely about what's contained within that particular text.
Okay, so even if I think I know something about the topic, I can't assume it's true unless it's stated in the passage.
Exactly. That's right. You've got to stick to the evidence within the text itself.
Okay.
Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about 2 really essential techniques for navigating these complex passages, and that's skimming and scanning. And, you've probably heard of these techniques before, but the key is really knowing how and when to use each one effectively.
Yeah, I have to admit, I often use those terms interchangeably.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing there's a difference.
There is a difference. So think of skimming like taking a helicopter ride over the text. So you're quickly glancing over it to get a bird's eye view of the main ideas, the structure, the overall flow. It's about understanding the gist without getting lost in the weeds.
Okay, so skimming is like reading the blurb on the back of a book to see if you're interested.
That's a perfect analogy.
Okay.
Skimming is especially helpful before you even look at the questions. So you get a sense of the passage first, and then when you dive into those questions, you can use scanning to really laser focus in on the specific information you need.
Oh, okay, so scanning is more like when you're searching for a detail, like when you use Control F on a website.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
So scanning is about running your eyes over the text to find specific keywords or phrases that relate to the question. And it's all about efficiency and making the most of your limited time.
I'm already starting to see how these techniques could really be game changers, not just for the IELTS, but for reading anything efficiently.
Absolutely. And speaking of efficiency, let's talk about the unsung hero of success, and that is time management. So 60 minutes might sound like a lot of time.
It does.
But trust me, it flies by when you're grappling with these complex texts and these challenging questions.
Oh, I can relate to that. I tend to get so absorbed in one particular question that I lose track of time entirely. So what are some strategies to avoid falling into that time trap?
One really effective approach is to set mini time goals for each passage or for each section. So for instance, you might allocate 20 minutes per passage. And this really forces you to move on, even if you haven't answered every question perfectly.
That's a really good tip, because I know that I could spend way too much time on one question, and then, I don't have time to finish the rest of the exam. So it sounds like a good way to stay on track, and I imagine it also helps reduce some of that anxiety because you're less likely to panic.
Exactly.
If you hit a snag.
Yeah, it's all about having a plan and sticking to it, even when the pressure is on.
Right.
You know, it's interesting how much mindset plays a role in reading comprehension. We've been talking a lot about strategy, but what about those mental hurdles that can really trip us up?
You mean like getting intimidated by a really dense passage or second-guessing ourselves on every single answer?
Precisely. You know, those mental blocks can be just as challenging as the material itself. But the good news is that there are ways to overcome them. And one really powerful approach is to simply shift your perspective. So instead of viewing the IELTS as this daunting obstacle, think of it as an opportunity to flex your mental muscles and develop valuable skills that will serve you well beyond the exam.
I love that reframing it as an opportunity rather than a threat. I think that can make a huge difference in how we approach the whole process.
Absolutely. It's all about adopting a growth mindset, embracing the challenge, and focusing on the progress that you're making along the way. Now let's dive into another really common pitfall that can derail your reading success, and that is misunderstanding the instructions.
Oh, I've been there. I can't tell you how many times I've skimmed over the instructions only to realize later that I missed a crucial detail.
It's so easy to do, especially when you're eager to get to the passage itself.
Yeah.
But taking those few extra seconds to carefully read and understand the instructions can save you a lot of heartache later on.
Yeah. So it's like that old saying, measure twice, cut once. It's worth investing the time up front to make sure you're on the right track.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of mistakes, let's talk about another one that often trips people up, and that is relying on assumptions or outside knowledge instead of sticking to the information that's presented in the text.
Right. That makes sense because it's tempting to draw on our own experiences or our own background knowledge, but the IELTS is specifically designed to assess our ability to comprehend the given material.
You've got it. It's not about what you think you know. It's about what the passage explicitly states or implies. So always go back to the text and find the evidence to support your answer.
Okay, so no matter how much I think I know about a topic, I need to treat the passage as the ultimate authority.
Precisely. It's about honing that ability to extract meaning from the text itself. Now let's shift gears again and talk about another really crucial element of success, and that is practice.
Yeah, I know everybody says practice makes perfect, but what's the most effective way to practice for the IELTS reading section?
Well, the best way to prepare is to use authentic IELTS past papers. And they provide this invaluable experience with the format, the timing, the types of questions that you'll encounter on the actual exam.
So it's like training for a marathon. You wouldn't just show up on race day without any practice runs.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. The skills that you develop through this practice go far beyond the IELTS. They're transferable to any situation where you need to quickly and accurately comprehend complex information.
That's what I love about these deep dives. You know, we start with a specific topic, but we always end up uncovering these broader universal principles that apply to so many aspects of life.
Absolutely. Think about all the times you have to sift through emails, reports, articles, even social media posts trying to extract that key information. These skills can make you a more efficient and effective reader in any context.
Yeah. So whether you're prepping for the IELTS or just trying to navigate that daily deluge of information, these strategies can help you become a more discerning and empowered reader.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Now let's move on to the next part of our deep dive, where we're going to be looking at some specific question types in the IELTS reading section. Stay tuned.
And speaking of empowered readers, let's talk about a resource that can provide invaluable guidance and support on your IELTS journey, the IELTS Resource Center.
You mean the online coaching platform developed by George and Stella George? I've heard great things about their approach.
Yes. They've created an incredible resource that offers personalized coaching, expert guidance, and a supportive community to help you achieve your IELTS goals.
I'm curious what makes their approach so unique. What sets them apart from other IELTS prep resources?
One of the things that really impressed me is their emphasis on personalized attention. They understand that everyone learns differently, and they tailor their coaching to meet your individual needs.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach?
Mm-hmm.
They really take the time to understand your strengths, weaknesses, and learning style.
Exactly. They're like personal trainers for your reading skills.
Mm-hmm.
They help you identify areas where you need to improve, and they provide targeted strategies to help you develop those skills.
I can see how that would be incredibly helpful, especially for someone who feels overwhelmed or unsure where to start.
Another thing that sets them apart is their focus on building confidence. They understand that test anxiety can be a major obstacle for many people, and they provide tools and techniques to help you manage those nerves and perform at your best.
That's so important. It's one thing to have the knowledge and skills, but if you're paralyzed by fear on test day, it's hard to show what you know.
Exactly. They create a supportive and encouraging environment where you feel empowered to take risks, learn from your mistakes, and ultimately achieve your goals.
I love that they address both the academic and the emotional aspects of test preparation. It's a holistic approach that recognizes that success on the IELTS is about more than just memorizing facts and figures.
And the best part is that the skills you develop through their program go far beyond the IELTS itself. They're transferable to any area of life where you need to think critically, communicate effectively, and engage with complex information.
So it's an investment in your future, not just a quick fix for a test.
Precisely. Now, as we wrap up this segment of our deep dive, I want to emphasize that you don't have to face this challenge alone. There are resources available to support you every step of the way, and the IELTS Resource Center is an excellent example of that.
Their personalized coaching, expert guidance, and supportive community can make a world of difference in your IELTS journey.
And remember, the skills you develop through their program will benefit you long after you've taken the exam. They're lifelong tools that will empower you to navigate the world with confidence and clarity.
Now let's move on to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some specific question types and share some insider tips to help you boost your comprehension and accuracy. Stay tuned. All right, so we're back and ready to tackle some of these specific question types in the IELTS reading section. Let's start with maybe one of the trickiest ones, the true, false, not given questions. What is it about these true, false, not given questions that makes them so difficult?
It's one thing to kind of grasp the overall meaning of a passage, but it's quite another to really zero in on these very specific statements and determine if they're actually supported by the text or not. And I think that's where people often stumble with true, false, not given questions.
Yeah, I know. I've definitely fallen into those traps myself. What are some tips to avoid those traps and to really nail these questions?
Well, I think the most important thing is to really pay attention to the wording of both the statement and the passage. So remember, it's not about whether you think something is true based on your general knowledge, but it's about what the text explicitly states or implies.
So if the passage says, for example, some penguins prefer rocky beaches, and the statement says all penguins live on icy terrain, that would be false.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example because the passage directly contradicts the statement, making it false. But where things get a little bit trickier is with the not given option. And that's where a lot of people really stumble.
Yeah, those not given ones are really frustrating. How do we determine if something is not given without overthinking it?
Yeah, so here's the key with not given. Not given means that the information to either confirm or deny the statement is simply absent from the passage. So it's not about what could be true based on information from other sources. It's solely about the information within that specific text.
So if our penguin passage never mentioned anything about their mating rituals, a statement about penguin mating rituals would be not given, even if I happen to know a lot about penguin mating rituals from other sources.
Precisely. You got it. It's all about staying grounded in that provided text. So let's move on to another question type that often causes some confusion, and that is matching headings.
Oh yeah, I remember when I first encountered matching headings questions. I felt like I was trying to force puzzle pieces together sometimes.
Yeah.
Trying to make the headings fit, even when they didn't quite belong.
Yeah, you can definitely feel that way sometimes. So I think a more strategic approach to matching headings is to first identify the main idea of each paragraph, almost like creating a mini headline for yourself. And then you see which heading best captures that essence.
So it's about understanding the big picture of the paragraph, not getting caught up in little details that might be tempting but not really representative of the overall idea.
Exactly. And here's a bonus tip. The headings will often use synonyms or rephrased ideas from the paragraph, so don't get thrown off by different wording if the core concept is the same.
It's like those IELTS test writers are trying to trick us with their fancy vocabulary.
Maybe a little bit.
But now we're on to them. So any other words of wisdom before we wrap up our deep dive into IELTS reading?
Just remember that practice is crucial, and not just any practice, but practice with intention. So analyze your mistakes, try to understand why you got something wrong. Was it a misinterpretation of the passage? Was it misreading the question? And the IELTS Resource Center's online platform is fantastic for this type of analysis because it provides really detailed feedback and explanations to help you pinpoint your weak areas.
Well, it's been fantastic having you on the show to break down all of these concepts for us.
Yeah.
I feel like my reading comprehension has already leveled up just from this conversation.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all of our listeners out there, remember, the skills that you develop for the IELTS are really lifelong tools that will make you a sharper reader, a clearer thinker, and a more informed individual overall.
Absolutely.
So whether you're striving for that top IELTS score or you just want to conquer any reading challenge that life might throw at you, Remember the key takeaways from our deep dive today. Practice with purpose. Break down those tricky question types. And don't hesitate to seek out expert guidance like the incredible support offered by the IELTS Resource Center.
Their personalized approach, developed by George and Stella George, can really make this journey not only achievable, but enjoyable as well.
And on that note, that's a wrap for another episode of The Deep Dive. We'll be back soon with more knowledge nuggets to empower your journey. Until then, happy reading, everyone.
Achieve your IELTS goals with Mr. George. Get ready for IELTS success with personalized guidance from Mr. George Expert Coaching at IELTS Resource Center. With years of experience and passion for teaching, they provide tailored strategies, practical exercises, and real-time feedback to help you reach your target band score. Subscribe now to access exclusive materials, personalized coaching, and flexible online sessions that fit within your schedule. This is your chance to learn from the best and confidently for every session of the IELTS exam. For more information, call or WhatsApp us at 09052964864 or 07083458307.